welcome to another edition of Talent Talks. Today I have with me from Mann Solutions, Tena and Quincy. And if you've seen all of our other episodes, you may have already been introduced to them, but I'd like to give them a moment to tell you a little bit about themselves and about Mann Solutions hourly product. Tena, would you mind going first?
Yeah, I would. So I joined Mann Solutions about a year ago. Kind of in an interesting way, someone approached me saying, we're building our first product. Do you want to be a part of it? And of course, that piqued my interest. So at Mann Solutions, our product division is pretty new. I think Quincy's going to talk a little bit more about our mission and why we even exist. But I feel really fortunate. I'm actually the head of product marketing. And we operate like a startup, kind of a tech startup within a big company full of talent acquisition experts. So I am kind of sitting in the middle of a lot of experts and feel really fortunate. And we are having a fun time building our first product and bringing it to market. I'll let Quincy get up from there.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I love the idea of being a startup within a big company, right? Like that's amazing. So Quincy, introduce yourself for the crew and tell us a little bit about Mann Solutions hourly product, please.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for that. I'm Tena's counterpart on the product management side. So I'm vice president and head of product management for our new product division. We came to be actually because everyone knows Mann Solutions as a global powerhouse in talent acquisition consulting and TA tech consulting, of course, and recruitment process outsourcing, contingent workforce and so forth. But we have such a forward-thinking board of directors and our key investors that they understand that the way that we're delivering work will continue to evolve. And so we've decided to come to market, taking all of our hundreds and probably thousands of combined years of experience and expertise in talent acquisition, and come to market with technology for the first time to make sure that we are growing in the same way that our market and the clients that we serve are growing. And so our first product that we're coming to market with is hourly, that I'm really excited to talk about today. And it will be the first in a family of many as we move forward.
That's awesome. And, obviously I'm here because Joveo is part of that suite, but we'll get to that in a minute. But one of the things that I find so interesting is the approach, the conversational and really candidate-centric approach that you guys have taken. Can you talk for just a few minutes about conversational hiring technologies and how that helps with not only your results, but also the experience of the hourly candidate?
So I'll talk first about experience, because that was one of the primary foundational pillars of going to market with a product. And what we've seen over the course of many, many years is a lot of, point solution after point solution after point solution, which are phenomenal to insert into points of the process where there may have been pain or where you need improvement. And what we haven't necessarily seen, though, is one full platform end to end that is conversational and experience and feels like a recruiter. It feels like a conversation, so that as an applicant, you feel like you're having the opportunity to speak to a recruiter and get your questions answered and be asked about your own experience and what you bring to the table without just filling in a form, which feels old. And so what we've done is put together a platform that really feels like that. It's how would it feel if I were talking to a recruiter? While on the back end, I'm actually freeing up my recruiters to be experts in finding people that we haven't been able to find in an automated fashion and exploring those markets that you need something more than just an advertisement on the internet. And then as we bring them all in, it's still kind of flowing through from end to end in a real sort of organic feeling way. Using that conversational technology in the back end that you referenced.
I think too, when it became really real for me when I came on board, is we love to kind of secret shop the process. So we all as a team will go out and apply for an hourly job somewhere, a store that maybe I'm out shopping and I see someone's hiring. Like, I wonder what their apply process is like. And Quincy and I both have teenage and young adult children who also, have applied for several hourly jobs, and they would come home. I know both Quincy and I have great stories where our kids would come home and say, "Oh, I applied for this job. It took me," they're applying for a cashier position, right? And it's asking them to upload a resume and create a login, or maybe even download an app on their phone. I know my son, and I think one of Quincy's children, applied and my son got an email, which took him like 3 days to even get the email. And when he got the email, it said, "Thanks for applying. If you don't hear from us in 45 days, please apply again. Please look at our jobs and apply again." That's a horrible experience for somebody who needs a paycheck, right? who wants to get a job. So I think that really served as kind of inspiration for how can we make this better for those people who simply need or want a job.
It crushes me a little bit to know that like that literally is an email that an employer sent, right? Like, "Hey dude, you're really our most important asset, but if you don't hear from us in 45 days, just try on back," right? Like it seems very impersonal and very dismissive. And so I know from talking with both of you that you guys are really closing this gap. You're making sure that there is honor in both sides of the process, right? We honor your time, we honor your experience, all of those things. And I sense that you're not doing that by yourself, right? Like obviously you're partnering with Joveo. That's how we met, right? But can you talk a little bit about your partnerships and how they enable a more feeling process for an hourly candidate?
Yeah, maybe I'll do a little intro and then hand it over to you for the nuts and bolts, Quincy. Because I do want to just make one thing clear. I think Quincy earlier talked about how we really believe it should be this kind of comprehensive solution from end to end for both the candidate and for the hiring manager. So we did see that there's a lot of solutions out there where people are working with their existing maybe ATS or another solution. And so they start piecing things together, right? They start trying to plug the gaps with different point solutions. And while we do have a partner ecosystem, I just want to be clear that we're not creating this pieced together solution. It's still one seamless hourly solution, but we are leaning into folks like Joveo. We have I'll let Quincy talk a little bit about our partnership with Tradeify, who's a really beautiful visual assessment technology. But those are all part of our solution. So for the candidate or even for the hiring manager, it's still one solution, right? They're not trying to kind of figure out where all these fit together. So I think it's a different approach to partnership than a lot of times you see, like you go to a solution and you go to they have some kind of marketplace or something where you can start piecing together all their partners. We've actually taken that workload off of our client. We've said we believe these are the most, powerful partners we can have. So we've just brought them right on into our solution for you.
I think that's amazing. And Quincy, I'll let you talk a little bit more about that. But I've gone on the record several times talking about how some automation feels clunky to me, and I would rather not have it if it didn't feel right. And I think you guys are doing a really good job of making it feel right to the end user. Quincy, do you want to talk a little bit about how you're doing that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So exactly what you just said, Jen, is what we were trying to avoid all along. And so you'll have, for example, a chatbot up front that presents a really nice sort of conversational feel. And once it's determined through chat that, hey, this could be a good candidate, let's let them go through an application, they're dumped back into sort of a legacy ATS application process. And then they'll come back out into a new sort of modern experience, perhaps in an assessment or a video assessment, and they're dumped back into ATS again. And to your point, it all feels very, very clunky. And so as we were going through and deciding how we were going to build this platform, the first thing that we decided is we wanted to build it on our own and not partner with someone else. And that resulted in an acquisition that we did some time ago of a company called Karen HR, which was in the space already, but we didn't use a single line of their code. What we bought was their expertise in understanding the market that we were trying to serve, and the beauty of the product that they had previously. It was exactly that. It was beautiful. It looked good. It felt good. It had a really good feel to it. And they also had expertise in sort of that matching piece. So if you have, how do we take an assessment, which is sort of an F word for some of us. I've never been a fan of assessment, just to be really frank. But the reason is because the experience is gross, right? You go in and it takes 45 minutes or an hour of your time, and you don't know what they're asking or why they're asking it. And you don't know what the point of it is anyway. And am I going to get screened out if I'm doing this? And so we were able to take that and work that into part of the flow through what the beautiful experience of Tradeify, which is a visual assessment that's still completely vetted and validated and adds value to our process, but it's built directly into our product. So you're not bouncing out and bouncing back in. It's the same with Joveo, which is you, obviously, the other partner that we have. You are built into the experience. It's not jumping out from one and jumping into another, and we have to go through 1,000 integrations, and are we able to do that? It's a core part of what we're doing. And the reason we chose those two parts to build into our process is because well, frankly, Joveo does a great job already with the programmatic advertising, and the data that you have and the experience that you have is something that would take us years to replicate. And really, that's what we wanted to do, is replicate. So we're proud to have the partnership with Joveo. It's the same with Tradeify. The assessment that they have is it works really, really well for what we're trying to do. It's been really well received by the applicants who are actually going through the assessment, and also by the hiring managers on the other end, who are the benefactors of the information that comes out of Tradeify. But again, built in, it's part of what it is that we're doing. It's not an outside, hey, pick something and plug it in, like Tina was referencing.
Yep.
And everything else we've built on our own.
Well, so thank you for the complimentary words on Joveo, right? Like, I believe that it's a great product. I left a corporate career of over 20 years and ended up here because I believe. And as I listen to you talk about really doing more with less and recruiters, and you would sort of think that in this time of high unemployment, that a programmatic ad vendor is sort of superfluous, right? Like, why do you need somebody to place the ads? My perspective on that is really it's about alignment and goals, right? Like, if you just left things out to the internets to be what they were, you might get 100 applicants for one job. And of those, maybe 20 are qualified. But by setting goals and cutting off the number of applicants that you get and making sure that they're really qualified, you actually reduce the work of your recruiters throughout the funnel. So it's like, I know sometimes the thought might be that programmatic is what you do when you need people. I would argue that it's kind of a little bit of both, right? You do it when you need people, but you also do it when you need to control the amount of people that you have for a job. Would you agree with that? Or how would you append or add to kind of my perspective there?
I would say that you're spot on, because in the market today, you see two things. You see high unemployment, right? So you have some clients who are coming and saying, we have way too many applicants. We don't know how to figure out who's best. We don't know where we're getting them from. Currently it's, where's the source? And it's because somebody clicked and said, I found you on Monster. And that most of the time isn't true. So they don't know where they're getting the right people from. They're getting too many. They don't even know if they're right. So that's on the one side. And that's where, to your point, of programmatic approach and platform can help you really narrow that down to make sure over time, as the machine learns and you understand where the best quality applicants are coming from, you can start narrowing where you go. So it's cost savings as well. And you can actually, to your point, control cost is an economic factor as well, because you're cutting it off when you have enough. On the other end, you're seeing those people who are don't have any. They just don't have enough. Their traditional places of placement and their traditional sources aren't working. And so we can use the programmatic advertising platform and marketplace to expand where we're searching, to attract candidates that we may not otherwise have had, who aren't hanging out on Indeed, for example. So I think it's an invaluable part of any sort of recruitment function and organization at large. And certainly it's a core component of Hourly as a platform.
So exciting. So ladies, we're about out of time, but before I close, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we would like to? I mean, it's our show.
I would say the one thing that I know we've talked a lot, we've had this theme of treating candidates with dignity. I think we've all mentioned that word, or I know both of you have. A big thing for us, and I know this is really a passion of yours, Quincy, I don't know that we've touched too much on the rejection process, right? So we just talked about how some organizations have hundreds of candidates coming in. You might only be hiring 5 or 10. Well, a big bulk of those folks that you're quote unquote rejecting probably applied because they actually are a fan of your brand. They maybe were in your store and they're a customer. And now I think some of our research we did pre-pandemic, and I'm sure it's probably even higher now, told us that 67% or upwards of 60% of candidates don't even hear back after they apply. Like, just period. They apply, they spend maybe an hour, 2 hours applying, don't hear a single piece of communication back. So that is also a big part of the solution for us, is making sure when candidates don't get the job, they're still treated and feel valued. And we actually kind of leverage the Tradeify assessment and some other pieces of the technology to still reach out to them, to give them some support, even after when they don't get the job.
And meaningful feedback. So if you guys didn't listen to our other episode, I am going to encourage you to do that next after we close. But we really have a good conversation about how those conversations happen and how they feel personal and meaningful. I would just like to throw out there for all of the watchers out there, if candidate experience is important to you, really having a conversation with Alexander Mann Solutions and their hourly product is probably worth your while. I would also recommend that you take a look at the Talent Board's Candidate Experience Awards. They actually have a sentiment calculator that kind of tells you what sort of harm or good are you doing to your brand by your actions. And when you look at that, you probably will really see a need for a good support partner. It's very eye-opening. So Quincy and Tena, thank you guys both so much for spending some time with me today. I really loved learning more about the Alexander Mann Solutions hourly product, and I appreciate you being a Joveo customer and always somebody that I can share my thoughts and ideas with. So thank you again, and appreciated having you on the show.
Thanks, Jen. We appreciate it as well.